Hello and welcome to the bankruptcy module. No one starts his or her life intending to go bankrupt. People go bankrupt for reasons beyond their control. Bankruptcy is not a bad thing. It used to be socially unacceptable, however, now it is your legal right to declare bankruptcy. Bankruptcy should be considered as one of the methods to become debt-free, but it comes with a price. Let us run through the objectives of this module. I would like to begin by defining what is an insolvent person and answer the who, what, and whys of filing for bankruptcy. We will examine why filing for bankruptcy may be your best option. We will also discuss the characteristics of bankruptcy, the advantages, the disadvantages, the costs, ways to reestablish your credit, and answer a few of the most frequently asked questions. An insolvent person is an individual person or company who is not in bankruptcy and who resides or carries on business or has property in Canada, whose liabilities to creditors, provable as claims under this Act, amount to $1,000, and who is for any reason unable to meet his obligations as they generally become due, who has ceased paying his current obligations in the ordinary course of business as they generally become due, or the aggregate of whose property is not, at a fair valuation, sufficient, or, if disposed of at a fairly conducted sale under a legal process, would not be sufficient to enable payment of all his obligations due and accruing due. No one begins his or her financial life with the expectation of becoming insolvent. We become insolvent in most cases due to circumstances beyond our control, and sometimes we fall victim to the consumer society where we spend beyond our means. In Canada, being insolvent means that you must owe at least $1,000 and be unable to pay your bills when they become due, or have stopped paying the debts altogether, or if you sold your assets, the returns would not cover your debts. Bankruptcy is a legal proceeding that relieves an insolvent person of his or her financial obligations. When someone files for bankruptcy, the person is asking the bankruptcy court to protect him or her from its creditors. The moment you file for bankruptcy and walk away from the trustee office, there is an immediate stop of proceedings against your creditors. All legal actions, like salary garnishment, judgments, collector calls, will immediately stop. However, the fact that you have filed for bankruptcy does not automatically clear your debts. Your debts are only cleared once you have received your discharge statement. We will discuss the discharge statement in more detail in subsequent slides. In 2006, more than 200,000 individuals in Canada filed for personal bankruptcy or submitted a consumer proposal. Filing bankruptcy is usually the last resort for people under siege by creditors. It is a powerful vehicle for a debtor to get a fresh financial start. It could be a business owner whose company has failed, leaving him or her personally responsible for the business debts and tax owing. It could be a person who has lost his or her job and was forced to live off credit before a new job was found, or sickness that prevents a person from working, or any other of many ill-fated life circumstances. The trustee is the legal representative of the bankrupt person, but also acts on behalf of the creditors. In this dual role, the trustee is required to guarantee that all parties involved act fairly and in accordance with the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. The Certified Insolvency Counselor is an independent and impartial consultant that acts within the boundary of the law. The Certified Insolvency Counselor conducts the initial assessment of your current situation, negotiates with your trustee on your behalf, uses the trustee services to file the bankruptcy, provides the mandatory counseling sessions, helps to re-establish the bankrupt person's credit after discharge. The Certified Insolvency Counselor has a critical role that the trustee does not offer. The trustee in bankruptcy can also conduct the initial assessment of your current situation, file the bankruptcy and administer the process, provide for mandatory counseling sessions, provide the discharge certificate if the bankrupt person has fulfilled his commitments. To file for bankruptcy, you need to use the services of a certified insolvency counselor or a trustee in bankruptcy. Once the bankrupt person files for bankruptcy, the trustee files the stay of proceedings electronically with the court on behalf of the bankrupt person. Once the stay of proceedings is filed, the creditors cannot take any action to seize assets other than those signed over as security in the event of non-payment, stops any existing wages garnishment immediately, and prevents any creditors from seeking a court order to garnish the bankrupt person's wages. All collection calls also stop once the debt collector knows the person has filed for bankruptcy. The Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act protects the person from their creditors, but it also imposes certain conditions while the person is in bankruptcy period. First-time bankrupts are entitled to a discharge after 9 months plus 1 day. Second-time bankrupts are entitled to a discharge, but the duration varies. Some second-time bankrupts get discharged after 9 months plus 1 day. Others get discharged in 12 months. Others may go on for longer periods. While in bankruptcy, the bankrupt person cannot be a director of a company, must turn in all credit cards, must make monthly payments to the trustee, cannot have non-sufficient fund checks. The monthly payment is based on the individual or household surplus income. The payment to the trustee may change upward or downward. That is why the bankrupt person must report any monthly income drop or increase while in the bankruptcy. The bankrupt person must turn in to the trustee copies of pay stubs and attend 2 counseling sessions on money management. There is no limit as for how many times a person may file for bankruptcy during his or her life. At the end of the bankruptcy period, for example, for a first-time bankrupt in 9 months plus 1 day, the trustee reports to the court on the behavior of the bankrupt person. The report may be filed 1 year plus 1 day or may be filed at a later date depending on the circumstances of the bankruptcy. There are no disadvantages to bankruptcy. If the person is having difficulty paying bills, his or her credit rating is already bad and nothing will make it worse. In fact, the person will be a better credit risk after bankruptcy because he or she will have no debt. Farmers, $28,300. Motor vehicle, $5,650. Locked-in company pension plan or certain RRSPs, if the bankrupt person has any RRSPs, documentation must be presented. Cash surrender value of a life insurance policy if there is a protected, irrevocable beneficiary, like a spouse, child, or parent. Discharge from bankruptcy erases all unsecured debts, for example, credit card, line of credit, and any private debts. Bankruptcy does not erase the following debts: fines imposed by a court, money owing for things stolen, things obtained by misrepresentation, alimony, award of damages by a court for intentionally inflicting bodily harm or sexual assault, student loans if bankruptcy is filed prior to or within 10 years after the end of his or her studies. Bankruptcy is a black mark on a person's credit rating that stays on your credit bureau report for up to 7 years. However, a diligent person can rebuild his or her credit as soon as the discharge certificate is received from the trustee. Re-establishing credit involves getting 2 secured credit cards or getting a leased vehicle. Your destroyed credit can be rebuilt in as little as 2 years. In 2 years, you can buy a house with 5 to 10% down payment. You can even buy a house 1 day after the discharge with 15% down payment. The bankrupt person makes payments for a minimum of 9 months. The payment is made to the trustee who has filed the bankruptcy. The payment is determined based on a calculation in the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. The bankrupt person is expected to pay a minimum payment. The minimum payment ranges from $150 to $200. In the case of a surplus income, the bankrupt is expected to pay a minimum of 50% of the surplus. The bankrupt person is expected to report any increase or decrease in their income. A raise in the bankrupt person's income translates into paying a bit more on the initial amount. Likewise, a drop in their income results in a reduction in the monthly payment. How long will bankruptcy stay on my credit report? In Ontario, it stays for 6 years. How long will it take to get discharged from bankruptcy? First-time bankrupt, 9 months, providing the bankrupt person satisfied all the conditions imposed by the court. For subsequent bankruptcy, it depends on the bankrupt person's behavior, circumstances, and the trustee's efforts. How soon can you re-establish your credit? You can establish your credit as soon as you get discharged. How do you establish your credit? You establish your credit through obtaining secured credit cards. The bank will decline you, but your certified insolvency counselor has a program to help solve this dilemma. Why do we offer this information free of charge? At Debt Free Living, we believe in educating our client. We want to be your advisor to help you evaluate your options to see if bankruptcy is right for your situation, structure your assets and your debts, negotiate with a trustee the best terms for your situation, and after 9 months plus 1 day, in other words, on your discharge from bankruptcy, help you rebuild your credit and financial life. If you are worried that you can't apply the principles contained in this insight, or if you have a question or comment, please call us or email us. We want to earn your business. We want to see you go from debt to wealth, to have a prosperous life. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the bankruptcy module. Should you have any questions, comments, or feedback, we would love to hear from you. If you like these solutions that we can deliver to you and to your family, please give us a call for a free complimentary assessment of your unique situation. We hope that you have benefited from this. If you did, we kindly ask you to pass it on to your friends and family. We look forward to hearing from you.